This is the story of a brother who slept and woke up in Foreverland. He looked around, nothing's for.
Hello everyone, I am Anamboso Chika. The presentation today is on organizational leadership and crisis management. I want to especially appreciate the School of the Spirit Bible Institute for this opportunity. To be organized is to be able to put things together, especially in an orderly manner. This brings us to one of the concepts of today's topic, organization. Organization is a set of people in an environment guided by rules and regulations, working towards achieving the purpose for progress and for benefits. We should also be aware in an organization we have an hierarchy, and this hierarchy have where leaders dish out information from either the top to the bottom. And in most companies or organizations of today, we all have leaders in our establishments. These leaders are on in government parastatals, hospital, churches, and all other religious places. Organizational leaders, they have set of strategic goals that they set aside to be achieved either through motivations or through their own exemplary attitudes. In an organization where there is no good leadership that is being put in place, there is bound to be problems and confusion. And these problems and confusions are what we refer to as crisis at work. Crisis at workplace is a disruptive situation that threatens to disrupt the organization, maybe the stakeholders, the peers, or harm the organization and the organizational plans. Being able to manage a crisis is very important because it deals with issues that threatens the peace and success of an organization. It brings about change and total transformation. As a leader, crisis management is a testing time, but a leader have to do everything possible to be resilient so as to overcome problems that arise at the end of the day. Crisis management is not a time for joke. It's a time to be serious and a time to make vulnerable decisions with all forms of empathy that is attached. Every leader must be aware that crisis can be managed in four phases. We have the pre-crisis stage. We also have the which is always before the crisis anyway. Then we also have the crisis itself, the crisis proper. Then we have a replanning period, and the post-crisis period, which is always after the crisis entirely, because we need to go through a process of how to go about them before, proper, and then after the process, after the crisis itself. Likewise, the stages are represented in colors. You know, we have them. We have the colors in red, green, blue, and we also have yellow. But it is believed in an establishment that when crisis is represented in red, it shows that is a situation that cannot be handled, that just cannot be handled anymore. And when it gives us a color yellow, it's close to manageable, even though it's a problem. But when we have it in blue and green, they are minimal, low cost entirely. But it is always better when they are at green level. Green level shows there's really no problem, but at the blue level shows that there is a problem. Please nip it at the right now. Stop this problem, see to it right now, solve this problem now before it now gets to yellow, because by the time it gets to red, that is when it becomes a problem. Now, when we look at crisis, we have different types of crisis in an establishment. Crisis could range from fire, pandemic, like the current COVID-19 pandemic, flu, and the rest of them. Flood is also a form of crisis. Unfavorable media, when medias come up. For instance, when we have issues of Coca-Cola being taken to court, for probably a customer coming across some content, some things that are not supposed to be in Coca-Cola, we realized that the media were the ones that took up the matter and almost wanted to take it up, you know. So unfavorable media like that are really problems. They are crises in an establishment. We have power failure. That one is a big time problem, especially in Africa. Yeah, power failure is a crisis problem in an organization. Strike, often strike. Every now and then there is a strike. Maybe for instance, we have like in Nigeria, we have a body called NLC, Labour Congress. They are the ones that come into establishment, especially when staff of that establishment are not well, especially things that concern staff. They always come into the matter. I remember some time ago, I was supposed to take a flight on Arik Air to Jos, but because NLC came disrupting, the staff of Arik went to NLC to give a report that they were not well taken care of and or whatnot. Their motivations and everything were not paid. And NLC came, shut down, and that happens to me. I was supposed to take my flight, and that was a crisis at hand. We could not fly. There was so many things affected. We could not fly. Embezzlement, maybe in a government parastatal, also in a company too. Then we have civil disturbance, like for instance, the last EndSARS in October last year in Nigeria, when we had EndSARS, that was a crisis in a country. A country too can experience crisis, not necessarily a company, a country too. So that was a crisis in the company. A rally, like for instance, the last rally that was held in Lagos, the Yoruba Nation, they want to be Oduduwa on their own. That is a crisis in the country. So that is a kind of civil disturbance. We also have lawsuits where we have, like I gave an example of a Coca-Cola, somebody going to court saying I bought Coca-Cola and it wasn't the Coca-Cola I found in the content or something else entirely. So that is also a problem. Loss of senior partner is always a problem when there is no pre-plan in place, no plan A, plan B, plan C on ground to know how to go about replacing that partner. Is always a problem, because at that point there's going to be caucus in that company, those for the late partner and those for the other leaders, and they're about to be problem. And again, families will arise. That is one big crisis. And then we also have loss of data. This always affects companies big time when they lose data, especially in a company where they need data to work. It's really a crisis. I remember some time ago, I needed to make a presentation, something, a write-up, because I sometimes I do transcribing. So I was transcribing a book for someone, and unfortunately my laptop packed up. I really didn't have a plan B. It wasn't easy for me, and I had gone far with that book. I had to start all over because I thought I was saving right. I wasn't saving right. That was a big crisis at hand for us then, because I was assigned that job, and the establishment was so disappointed at me for that particular incident. So loss of data is also a problem. So we need to respond to crises as they come. Sometimes it's good to pre-plan. As a leader, we need to design a crisis communication plan before it really happens, because this is an approach, a good approach that has saved situations in many organizations. Let's take for example the 2019 global pandemic that broke out in China, in Wuhan, China, 2019. We call it COVID. A lot of us did not prepare for it. Even though when, particularly Nigeria, when it started happening out there, we were like, okay, will it come in? Will it not come in? Thank God for quick checkmating. Somebody came in from Italy, all the way from Italy to Nigeria, and that was how it broke out in Nigeria. We did not have pre-planned towards it, because it was like a shock to very many countries. A lot of countries didn't expect it. So as it is now, we are in the new normal. You understand? We're all having the new normal. Many organizations were affected, and a lot of people, it led to death of members. It led to death of members, and also a lot of factories were packing up, and in fact, so many things happened. A lot of companies were even downsizing. That it affected economy, it affected government. Even a lot of families had issues. Couples were having problems. At that period, a lot of things came up. during that pandemic. That's to tell you the rate at which crisis can affect situations around, even affecting individuals as well. So for organizations, leaders must first of all be empathetic, because it's nobody's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's not the organizational fault. Sometimes this is, for instance, flood is a natural disaster, but we're expected to have plan ahead towards it and look into it. There should be a level of confidence displayed as a leader, and make up to a backup plan. It can be a plan B, plan C in times of crisis. It has saved a lot of situations in companies very much. So you see, with a pre-crisis plan, a leader already knows how to distribute his tasks and as well build strong connection with their staff, because at this point, you cannot leave everybody fallow. You need to do everything possible to carry everybody along. So when we are responding to crisis, for instance, I'm going to use, for instance, power outbreak or power failure. Let's say in a production company, it is expected that that company would have a plan B, plan C, or plan D. They have to be proactive towards everything they are going to be doing. Now, let's give, for instance, the production department, the factory, or the general organization were only using national power, which is power holding, not generating sets. And all of a sudden, there is power failure. And this power failure probably is already all the way from Kenji Dam, and it's something that can last for months, and there is no backup plan. Oh, the company is gone. If it's a company that produces something like daily need, the company is gone. So for a production company like that, they need to have in place a big generating plant, and not just one, more than one generating plant. That is a plan. That is a plan by the side, having one or two generating plants that can carry them for that period. And when they are having these plants on ground, they should also have another plan for diesel suppliers, not one, not two, not three, diesel suppliers that will supply continuously, daily, not just one person, because one supplier could just wake up one day to disappoint. You just have to have more than one supplier on ground that can always supply diesel. Then you must also have, as one of the part of the plan, team of engineers on ground. Team of engineers that will always fix up the generating plant if they break down, because we cannot expect them to work forever. They will also wear out once in a while. So these engineers should always be on ground to be able to fix up these things immediately they go down, immediately they wear out, so that they can be fixed up. Another thing we also need to put in place is repairing replacement repairs, as in part replacement. They should always be on ground. It's not when we lose this one part is bad, we start placing order. And placing order might take a while, might take weeks before they arrive back into the country. It's not really nice. It's always good to have these parts on ground to be able to help production to continue. Because when these things break down, it will lead to production disruption or crisis entirely. I remember the situation because I handle production of plastic ID cards sometimes. And when I'm into production of ID card printers, I particularly use the printer they call HID. And HID, most times we don't really have a distributor of the parts in the country, in Nigeria. So we place order from Austin, Texas in the US. So what I do normally is, if I notice that my print head is beginning to give lines on the PVC cards that I'm printing, I quickly give a call or call my direct manager and let her know and said, "Ma'am, see the situation of things. I need a replacement, and the replacement is quickly ordered for, because by the time it start giving serious lines on the card of my clients and they start refusing it or returning the cards, is a loss on our parts. Loss of cards, lots of ribbon use, loss of power, even loss of my own energy in printing and designing. So automatically we're losing at our end. But for us not to lose, and for us not to fall into crisis, we need to have all these things in place. So most importantly, leaders must show empathy, to their staff. Most importantly, because for crisis not to take place in an establishment truly, there's some crisis that cannot be managed by a firm, a company. Motivational crisis. If staffs are not well motivated, their salaries are not well paid, their allowances are not well paid, they can cause crisis, which is like the one I said about Arik Air. They stopped our flight, not only our flight, to just a whole lot of flight for the whole day. People were just looming around the airport, and knowing fully well that Arik Air is one of the best airlines we have in Nigeria now. We were all confused. Everything shattered. In fact, their staffs were nowhere to be found. They were all looking. The leaders were like, when we called, asked questions, we were told they are in a meeting. They are in a meeting. We could not fly. We all went back home. So, for things like that, if their remunerations are not paid, an English saying, there's an English saying that goes, an hungry man is an angry man. When he's hungry, he's angry. When his remuneration is not paid and he's angry, he cannot feed his family, he will not be able to work. And that is crisis at work, especially when that person holds a core position at work. You are losing that person at work. They must be motivated financially. Allowance that is due to them must be paid if the company does not want problem. And sometimes we also appreciate by words of appreciation. Some leaders don't think when you have. Some leaders think when you don't when you use too much praises on staff, they feel too big. No, when you praise staff more, they bring out their efforts to work more for you. There's a saying in my language that says, when you praise a strong man, he works more, he gives in his best more. So if as somebody who is strengthful, you're not encouraging the person with words of mouth, oh, well done, you're doing well, keep it up, you're not saying anything, rather you're bringing the person that says, oh, you're not doing this right, and the person is using every strength to be able to do it, then for heaven's sake, there is bound to be crisis, because at a stage that person will break down. Sometimes words of encouragement pushes people and makes them to do more. And then we should always reward with gifts and awards. Maybe during office award ceremonies, we should give them award. Oh, the best staff, the best staff that comes early, the best staff that works without supervision. A whole lot of awards like that. We could give monetary awards, vacation awards, holiday awards to families. These and all other things are things that motivate staff to work well, and that way we barely find crisis coming up from all nooks and crannies of the establishment. So leaders, organizational leadership is important in crisis management. With good leader, there is bound not to be any crisis in an establishment. Thank you.